right. Well, for those of you joining us, I'm going to give it just another minute or so and let people have an opportunity to pop in. Again, if you're just joining, I am going to give it just another minute or so, let people get settled in and join, and then I will get started. All right. Well, hello, Edmundo. Nice to see you. Welcome, everyone. I say good morning and good afternoon. I am on the West Coast over in Oregon today. So I hope everyone is doing well. I want to say thank you to Andrew and everyone at the Craft Beer Professionals Group for inviting me to present during this conference. I'm very excited. My name is Christina LaRue. I am the Executive Director. Hello, Andrew from Arizona. I'm the Executive Director of the Oregon Brewers Guild. I am located in Bend, Oregon, which is smack dab in the middle of the state, for those of you that are familiar with Oregon. Today, I am going to present my presentation is titled "The Only Constant is Change," which is basically our motto for 2020, and the pandemic effects on state guilds. Let me get over here and share my screen. Oh, just a couple housekeeping items. You're welcome to, on Facebook in the comment section, drop in comments or questions. I will flip back and forth from my presentation to this screen so that I can see, and I'll try to answer questions throughout. There'll also be a little time at the end for any questions that may come up. So in the comment section on your Facebook screen. And I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation. So the only constant is change, which I'm sure all of you have felt this year. I'm going to start off by just going over a little bit of what a state brewers guild is. Many of you, I'm sure, are aware of what state guilds do, but I thought for those of you that may not know, I'd go ahead and give you just a little bit background on what we do. So state guilds are basically created to help promote and protect the craft beer industry. We do this through education, government affairs, diversity and equity work, events, fundraising, and much more. Guilds are primarily ED runs, so that's executive director run. You may have one ED or more. You may have additional staff as well. And they are run with board guidance. So state guilds, depending on their bylaws, state mandate how many board members that they have. Here in Oregon, we have 9 board seats. Guilds, right now, we have guilds in all 50 states plus Washington, D.C. That was the stats at the end of 2019. However, with the way that 2020 is going, that may change by the end of this year as we're seeing some economic impacts that have happened. All state guilds are 501c organizations. So we are nonprofit organizations, and the C6 is due to lobbying. So lobbying is one of our primary tasks in each of our states, working with our lobbyists and our state legislators on all types of government affairs. We work very closely with the Brewers Association. So those of you that are aware of the Brewers Association, that is another nonprofit organization, basically like a huge guild nationwide, and they help promote and protect craft beer across the nation. So we work very closely with them on committee work, events. We have weekly meetings with them so that we can connect with each other, etc. The Oregon Brewers Guild was founded in 1992. And the oldest guild in the nation is the California Brewers Association, which was founded in 1989. The average age, the median age for guilds is roughly about 10 years. Let me just flip back and see if there's any questions real quick. Any stats or anecdotes on how direct-to-consumer shipping in and out of state has helped Oregon breweries? I will get to that. That is some work that we've been doing with our state legislators. Okay, so what do? We promote craft beer. So we do this through events, social media, education, enthusiast programs, etc. We protect craft beer. So that, I feel, is our number one job. As an executive director, that is my number one goal, is to protect craft beer. We fight the good fight. We work directly with our lobbyists. So many guilds, I say many guilds that I know of, we have lobbyists on retainer or on contract. Others work with their state lobbyist as a needed basis. We work with our state and federal legislators, so direct contact with state offices, federal offices. We work with the Brewers Association, as I had mentioned closely, really just to ensure that our industry has a voice when it comes to any type of government affairs work. Communication, whether it be to members, many of us have enthusiast programs, or to the public, and we can do that. I personally do that through newsletters. I do a weekly newsletter to membership. I do working on a quarterly newsletter for our enthusiast program, which we're revamping. Many of us have websites, and on our website you can find information, whether about the guild. We have state maps, or a state map on our website, where you can scroll through and see who our members are, and then find those members on that map. Resources, especially this year, so we created a specific COVID-19 resource page. Social media, we have both. We personally have an Instagram account and a Facebook account. Many have Twitter accounts. Interviews, so especially right now in Oregon, we're working on a fight against a proposed beer tax. So those interviews, whether it be with the guild or setting interviews up with our members, with our brewery members, our associate members, etc. And then community. So in many of our states, we can actually be the epicenter of connecting our craft brewers with the craft beer loving community. And whether that's through events or through social media, we like to do, at our events, we do Meet the Brewer. This year has changed that quite a bit, but being the epicenter as far as that communication and connecting with our community, fundraisers, collaboration projects, whatnot. So the Oregon Brewers Guild. Wanted to just talk primarily about this year and our specific work that we've been doing in Oregon for our craft beer members. So back in March, we went into a state mandated lockdown mid-March. And when that happened, which I'm sure has happened across this country in many states, panic ensued, there was uncertainty, restaurants, bars, everything shut down except for your primary things like your essentials, right? Grocery stores, medical, etc. So we right away connected with our lobbyist and connected with our governor's office just to make sure that we were working directly with them so that our brewers had a voice, right? Rather than the governor's office being inundated with calls and letters and emails from, the almost 400 breweries that we have in the state, we funneled that information. We sent out surveys. We gathered statistics and data from across our brewing community so that we knew that the governor and her team were fully aware of the impact that our industry was seeing. we wanted to have a voice, somebody at the table. We work directly with our liquor commission, which is the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, again, to make sure that steps were being taken so that the craft brewers had a voice. Instantly, when we knew that we had no idea the timeline on when brew pubs would be able to reopen and what that reopening would look like, we wanted to ensure that our brewers had an opportunity, if they were packaging, to get that package to consumers. So whether it was curbside pickup, whether it was direct to consumer shipping or door to door delivery within the state, we wanted to work with our Liquor Control Commission to ensure that maybe some of the hoops that they usually have to jump through were either relaxed or eliminated. And I feel very grateful that through that process, the OLCC was really open, communication-wise, and they were willing to help us. So they worked to relax the application process. There was still an application that had to be submitted by our brewers for same-day delivery, but they were basically waiving the waiting period. So you could go online, you submit your application, and then you could start while your application was being reviewed. We just found out last week that the OLCC voted to actually make those changes permanent, which is a huge help to our breweries. Currently, we are going back to the governor's office. So with 2020, with the reopening, our state has been in a phased reopening, and the metrics for each phase have been pretty strict. And we wanted to make sure that when those discussions were happening with the governor and her committees, that our craft brewers had a voice in what that reopening would look like for them. We fought really hard to make sure that brew pubs and tasting rooms were lumped in with restaurants with the same rules and restrictions. So that was a lot of work that we went through, but it was successful, and we continue to have those conversations with the governor's office. We're on pause right now as far as anybody moving out of phase 1 or out of phase 2. Unfortunately, our numbers are increasing right now instead of decreasing like many states across the country. So we're on a semi-permanent hold, but still working with her office to ensure that as we move forward and when changes happen for reopening, that our brewers win as well. Proposed tax increase. So this is something that comes up every couple of years, where the state government feels that there's a deficit somewhere and they look at increasing our alcohol taxes. Now, granted, Oregon does have one of the lower alcohol taxes in the country, but we have one of the highest price per alcohol, right? Price per pint in the state. So it's always on the top of our mind on when and if this happens, making sure that we are ready for it. This year, we have a pretty substantial fight that we are up against. We have a group, a nonprofit group here in Oregon called Oregon Recovers. This has been working diligently with the Oregon Health Authority, and the Oregon Health Authority recently proposed a tax increase that would increase it by about 800%. And as preposterous as that sounds, it's actually a possibility that this could move forward. So right now we are working with an alcohol coalition, which includes distillers, wineries, cideries, breweries, and our wholesalers. Together, we've been working on a PR campaign that has been super successful. We've ensured that campaign shares our members' stories and the effects that the pandemic has had on them economically so far, and how devastating a tax increase of any sort, but an 800% tax increase would be to their businesses. We've reminded the governor that there have been multiple closures. We are looking at our 9th brewery closure as of this Sunday in the state, and that would continue to happen if something like this is proposed and then passed. We also work with the Brewers Association, excuse me, on the Craft Beverage Modernization and Tax Reform Act. So that was legislation that passed a couple years ago. That was actually enacted, that was brought to the table by one of our senators here in Oregon, Ron Whittam. And it took the federal excise tax and reduced it. It basically cut it in half up to a certain barrelage. And that was a 2-year, that bill was passed for 2 years. It is set to expire at the end of this year. And so this year, along with all things pandemic, we have been working diligently with the Brewers Association to spread the word on how important it is for this act to either become permanent or to at least have an extension for another year and give us another year to work on convincing Congress that it needs to be made permanent. The unfortunate side of that is if it doesn't, especially here in Oregon, where we're looking down the barrel of a potential state excise tax increase, that federal excise tax increase, if you were a brewery that has opened in the last 2 years, you will suddenly see your excise taxes, your federal excise tax, double, which can be pretty scary for small brewers. Those that had experienced it prior to that, it's always just been in the back of their minds, this could potentially run out, right? This could potentially end. And then, just knowing to budget for that. Except 2020, our budgets are just, they're screwed, right? I am going to jump back over real quick and just see if there's any questions. Okay. So direct to consumer, I can speak to that a little bit right now, going back to the OLCC. As far as across the country, I'm not sure what those stats are, but I do know that within the state of Oregon, it has meant life or death for a lot of our brewers, especially during the complete shutdown. So back in March, when all things were closed, there was no way for draft product to move. And if you are, some brewers that I know, their draft to package ratio is like a 60-40 or a 70-30. Well, when 70% of your revenue is cut because you have nowhere to send that draft product, you have to figure it out. So those brewers were able to survive over the last few months, knowing that they could either package it themselves, those that had canning or bottling capability, or bring in mobile canners and bottlers to help move that product. And so if you think about, not being able to move your product at all, you can't get it, very little can go into grocery stores because the shelves there, the retail space in grocery stores is minimal, right? So it's a constant fight for that. So if you're a small brewer who does not have access to that because maybe you are self-distributing, or maybe you don't distribute at all, it's all out of your tap room, that direct to consumer, being able to do home delivery if you have the availability, if you have somebody who can drive around town and deliver it, or even in-state shipping, it's been vital. So being able to hold on to that has really, like I said, it's been a life or death situation for a lot of our brewers. As we continue to move through this, and the uncertainty of when life will get back to any sense of normalcy, the uncertainty of when Portland Metro right now, there's 3 major counties in the Portland Metro area that are all still phase 1, which means very limited indoor, some outdoor dining. We don't know when they're moving to phase 2. The rest of the state that is in phase 2, we don't know when they're going to move to phase 3. It won't be in the foreseeable future. So having that ability to get your beer to your consumer, whether it's touchless or door-to-door, is vital. And we'll continue to keep that dialogue open with OLCC and with the governor's office to ensure that that remains a viable option for our brewers. Okay. 2020, so continuing on. So just looking at state guilds across the state, or across the country, sorry. Like I mentioned, we have, I sit on a weekly call every Thursday with anywhere from 30 to 50 state guilds. We try to all get on for an hour, and it's been super helpful. We get to talk to each other, we get to share stories, we get to share successes and failures, and every single one of us has felt the impact from this year to our budgets. As I mentioned, we're all nonprofit organizations. Here in Oregon, every dollar that we come in goes right back into funding our work, besides my salary. The revenue loss that guilds across this country have seen ranges from anywhere from 20 to 90% a drop of revenue. My revenue here at the guild, we see about 30% of our total annual income comes directly from our events, whether it's our educational events that we hold for our members, our annual member meeting / conference, or our we have our largest event of the year, which is our Fresh Hop Fest, which is supposed to happen at the end of September. Excuse me. So that 30% was basically eliminated at the beginning of this year. An average of 42% of income loss for guilds across the country has stemmed from an inability to hold in-person events. We've also seen some pretty serious staffing reductions, whether it's layoffs. So, many guilds who have had additional staff have had to lay those additional staff members off besides the ED. Many have had to see their EDs reduce their hours, going from full-time to part-time, or even some are just volunteering work, and then heavily relying on their boards. I feel extremely grateful that I work for a board that has been exceptionally supportive, has stepped up during all of this, and even with dealing with their own losses and impact from this year, they just continue to support the work that we're doing. Here at the Oregon Brewers Guild, back in January 2019 is when I came on as a co-executive director, and in February Tony Roberts came on as the other co-executive director, and it was the two of us that have been running the guild up until this past July. And just due to the loss of revenue that we've seen, we had about a $60,000 deficit from event loss for our budget. We knew that either one or both of us would end up jobless by the end of the year if we couldn't find creative ways to bring money in. And even through our virtual events and a collaboration project that we put together this year and online education, there wasn't enough funding coming in to keep both of us. So Tony stepped away back in July, and it has been exceptionally challenging. And I am not the only guild in the country that's dealing with this. So please know, all of you in the craft beer industry, we feel you. We understand where you're at, and we feel the losses as well. Staying afloat. So 2020 has been the year of, I say just pivoting, right? Every time you think you figured it out and something is going well, something else comes out of left field and you have to pivot. So the loss of our events, right? The loss of our in-person events was substantial for us. Luckily we were able to hold our members annual meeting and our members conference in February, right before things went to hell in a handbasket. So our largest event, which is our Fresh Hop Fest, which brings in the biggest chunk of money as far as events for us, we were unable to hold this year, and we knew that going into it. Back in April, when we were looking at the rest of the year and we were trying to budget, we knew it wasn't going to happen. And if it was going to be something completely different and not be able to generate the revenue that we're used to. So we looked at virtual events, which is what many guilds across this country have turned to. And whether it's, figuring out a beer festival done virtually, educational sessions, conferences, full conferences. The Washington State Guild is getting ready to hold their conference via online, member meetings, etc. It's our virtual reality. So we held two. We held our first one back in May, and that was when we were still under lockdown, and we called it the Stay Home Drink Beer Festival. And it was actually way more successful than we anticipated. It only brought in about 15,000, but for us, a virtual event, that felt like a win. The majority of it we made off of merchandise, and we had a beer raffle. So we reached out to our member breweries. We asked them, hey, we're putting together this event, which we turned around in literally like 7 days. I still don't know how we did it. but when we made the decision just to do it and then turn it around, we did it in about a week's time. But so we had a beer box that we created. We call it the Oregon Beer Box Raffle. Now, I know that there's many states out there that do not allow alcohol guilds to do alcohol raffles. Within the state of Oregon, nonprofits are allowed to hold one raffle/auction that involves alcohol in a 12-month period. So we took full advantage of that. We had our member breweries donate, and we had enough beer that was donated. We asked for, off-the-wall beers that maybe you pull out of your cellar, that specialty releases, whatnot. We had enough to do 2 large boxes, or 1 large box with 12 beers and some glassware, and then 2 smaller boxes with, I think it was like 5 beers each, glassware, and a t-shirt. And I'll tell you, the people sitting at home with nothing to do were willing to spend money on a raffle ticket to buy that beer, which I was super grateful for. Thank you to the community who participated in that, because it was a huge help and a win-win for us. We held our second festival later in June, and it was June. Sorry, the months and the days, they just mold together. So we held our second festival in the summer, and we didn't know what to expect because it was nice out. People were they were able to go outside, socially distanced. People were, going to the rivers and the mountains and hiking and camping. So it was less attended. We made about half of what we made off the first one, maybe a little less. We were unable to do another raffle. So I think that's where the lack of funding came in. But we were able to offer some really fun and engaging chats with brewers. We had brewers that came in from other states, and we had fun with it. But we did realize that was probably the last of the virtual beer festivals that we were going to hold, for the work to go into it, and guessing that we weren't going to see much return off of it. I've also held an educational session. So we kicked off last year. We call it our educational session series. And we had kicked it off last October in Hood River in person. It was a half-day, basically, educational conference where we had three panel discussions with some Q&A and then a happy hour at the end. So I brought that back in August virtually. It was, we had a small attendance, but people were really engaged. A lot of questions were asked, and we're going to continue with that. That is free to our members. We decided to do that free to our members, but it was like $10 or $15 for non-members to attend. And then we record it and offer the recorded session afterwards. And then member meetings. So we have our annual meeting in February, which luckily we were able to do in person. And we offer quarterly, usually do meetings around the state, just so that if people weren't able to make it to Portland for our annual meeting, we could give updates regionally to individuals. And I had done one in Bend shortly after the annual meeting, and then COVID hit. So I've started doing those virtually. And those are free to our members. They're free to non-members. We send out invites, and it's just really a way to engage membership and to answer questions, maybe for folks who aren't really sure of what we do or looking to know, maybe they have a specific issue that they want to talk about, and ask the guild for help. And then fundraisers. So we, again, getting creative in 2020 has definitely been what has saved us. And we came up with it. It's called the State of Excitement Collaboration Project. We kicked it off in February during our Mania event, which is like a statewide open house event that we hold every year. And we did a collaboration beer for that. We had about just under 30 breweries that participated. It was fun. We raised some money for the guild off of it, and people seem to really enjoy it. So as we progress through this pandemic, through this year, and that just uncertainty of where am I going to find funds outside of membership dues, just thinking about that project. And not only has it been an opportunity to bring money into the guild, but it's also been an opportunity to bring people together, even if virtually. So all of our, we've done everything online, whether it be deciding on the style, kind of the basic outline of what the hop bill will be and what the malt bill will be. And then we do a Zoom call with all of our collaborators and map out the recipe, and reached out to our associate members and had everything donated. So all of the raw materials, all of the packaging, everything is donated to the project because it is a fundraising event for the guild. And then we have Barrel Lake brewed our last one in July, and unfortunately, due to social distancing and whatnot, we did not have people there on site besides the Barrel Lake team. And our next one is brewed this Thursday, and that one will be brewed at Wild Ride Brewery in Redmond, Oregon. I'll actually be able to be on site for that one with masks and whatnot. But we have 26 different breweries that are collaborating with us, and we're just going to continue this project. So we'll do a holiday beer probably in late November for the holiday season, and then we'll just continue it into next year, doing four collaborations a year. Pint days. So we have not done this yet in Oregon, but I know that there's other states that basically have their members buy into pint glasses that have a special artwork. Colorado has done it. I believe Ohio has just done it. So there's other states that are doing it, and then those breweries sell that glassware at their establishments or online, and a certain percentage of that money comes back to the guild. We're looking at doing something like that here in Oregon. And then merchandise, whether it's t-shirts. I just did a run of masks, because masks are our life right now. And I did, as you can tell, our colors are black, white, and teal. So I did a teal version and a black version and sold those online. And, we sold a couple hundred masks here within the States. Or here within the state of Oregon. Our t-shirts sell really well. So we did our Stay Home Drink Beer t-shirt for that festival back in May. Our summer festival was called Drink Beer Be Kind because we just felt that people needed a reminder to be kind to one another. And so we did a t-shirt for that. And that one was popular. So I did a rerun of that, just the t-shirt, and sold that online this last month. It's an easy opportunity for your guild to make a little bit of money, and to engage. You engage your members, you engage your enthusiasts, the craft beer lovers. So just 2020, we're all in this together, right? It has been challenging and exhausting, and the uncertainty just continues, right? When it's going to end, when we'll have any sense of normalcy. But if you are in the brewing industry, whether you are a brewer, whether you are a supplier, a wholesaler, a retailer, connect with your state guild. We are just so open to help in any avenue that we can. And if we can't answer questions, we will get the answer for you. So make that connection. Google, state guilds. You can actually go to the Brewers Association too, and they have a webpage where you can search for your state guild. Become a member. So many of us, like here in Oregon, we have different tiers. So we have our brewery membership, which is just for craft brewers. We have an associate memberships, which is tiered whether you are a supplier, like a tradesperson, whether you are a wholesaler, or and we also have a retailer. We have a retailer membership. We also have an enthusiast program, and that is unfortunately kind of fallen to the wayside over this last year, but I'm revamping it. And we're changing the name of it. It used to be called SNOB, Supporters of Native Oregon Beer. We're going to change it up and call it the State of Excitement enthusiast program. We'll have t-shirts, glassware, etc. It is a really great way just to build that community, right? Engage them. Those people are going to be the ones that are going to come to your festivals, whether it's virtual or in person. They're going to be your volunteers. They're itching for that avenue to be able to connect to the breweries that they love. So yeah, do that connection, reach out, stay healthy, stay safe. I will, let's see, let me pop back in here and see what questions we have. Other states. We'll need to apply for those states. So there is Americraft. Yes. So the direct to consumer has definitely been topic of conversation for all the state guilds on our weekly calls. So we are actually working with our friends at the Brewers Association, doing outreach, taking surveys. They are helping us, the BA is helping us to reach out to UPS and FedEx, just to try to work on how can we make it, I don't want to say easier, but easier for craft brewers to do the same thing that wine's been doing it for years. So yes, we're trying to do that. We're trying to open it up. Every state is different, right? And that's the headache for craft breweries when it comes to direct to consumer shipping out of state. Every state has their own shipping laws. Every state has their own franchise laws. So it's just trying to navigate through that, which can be quite messy right now. So yes, we are working on that. Any tips for brand new guild to connect, engage, attract breweries? Get out in your community, which is hard to do right now. Just outreach, right? I find myself very lucky because I had been in the craft beer industry here in Oregon for just shy of 15 years, for 13 years before I took this job and working at breweries. So I worked 5 years at Deschutes in the production facility. I worked 3 years at Worthy Brewing as the business manager there. And I worked 2 different times at Crux Brewing, first as the front of house manager and then as the general manager of their pub. And that was my avenue, right? That was my avenue to engage, whether it was engaging brewers or people within the community. Get on social media, right? Do some outreach. Let them know that you are there for them. There are brewers across this country that don't know about their guilds or aren't aware of the work that their guilds are doing. And if you're a brand new guild, just try to get the word out there. Let them know. Also, let them know what you're working on. So if you have specifics, whether it's events that you're planning or education that you're planning, but primarily the government affairs piece, research what it is that your brewers in the state are in need of, right? So like I was talking about in Oregon, our biggest issue right now is beer tax. And there are multiple states across the country that are looking at that right now. Washington is getting ready to deal with that. I believe there's a couple East Coast states that are looking at potentially dealing with that. That is always going to be an issue, right? There's always going to be somebody who doesn't think the alcohol tax is high enough. So look at those issues. See what issues are kind of at the forefront of your brewers' minds, and then start that work. If you don't have connections to a lobbyist, I would suggest finding an avenue to connect with alcohol lobbyists. That has been, I feel very lucky again that we have a lobbyist, Jonathan Manton, that works with us, and he's amazing. His connections in Salem, and his heartfelt just pride for the craft beer industry has been substantial for the work that we've been able to do. I hope that helped. Edmundo, let me know if it did not, if I need to go further into that. And engaging too for breweries is social media. So what I try to do is I ask them, or if you have a way on your website for them to share what events that they're having. So even if it's special releases or something that they're doing virtually, help promote that. Be there to help promote their events, and then that will be engaging to them as well. Oh, yes, hold on. Let me go back here, and there we go. There is my contact information. My phone number, my direct email, and then our website. And I am very happy to ask any or answer any questions. I'm happy to, if you are an up and coming guild and you want to talk further, I'm happy to get on a phone call or do a Zoom meeting. It's, we do a lot of work. We build a lot of relationships, and guilds are vital to the craft beer industry. We help elevate the voice of our members in times of need, and especially on the legislative front. So I want to be a part of all the state guilds, but it's just not my budget. Okay, so questions. As a supply partner, I would love to be a part of all the state guilds, but it's just not in my budget parameters to join all 50 plus organizations. Can you recommend a way that suppliers, allied trade partners can support your brewery members? Just do outreach to state guilds. So I personally will do trade as far as membership. So if I have an allied trade partner that has a service or something free that they can offer to membership that equates to what their annual membership would be, I am more than happy to set up a trade. If it's a win-win for you and your members, as far as guilds, make that trade, because it will work out, even if it's just the first year, or a percentage discount on an allied trade partner's membership. So I would suggest, as a supply partner, just do the outreach, connect with each of those state guilds, give them who you are, what service you provide. If you already provide something within that state to their members, if there's something, a discount or an offer that you're willing to give to members in kind of return of either a discount on your membership or a trade on that membership, many of us are willing to do it. Okay. Yeah, just AmeriCraft, just reach out to me. You've got my contact information now, and we can set up a time to chat, whether it's a Zoom call between you and I or a phone call. I'm happy to discuss. And I think my time is up. Wow, that 45 minutes went fast. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I really appreciate your time. And again, please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have questions in general. And if you don't know your state guild, make sure you connect with your state guilds. have a great rest of your afternoon. Thanks.